Good morning, class. We're going to go over another transcription report. I hope you've been looking over your last reports and, seeing where you made mistakes so that you cannot make them in this. I should be seeing your introduction, your name, your MRN number, your dates. They should all be clear now, and as far as your closure, you need to have that. You should have that down as well. So look at the past reports before you submit so that you have the correct beginning and ending. So we're going to go ahead and start this report. The name is Henson Gabe C. And then you can look up the MRN number and you can look up the date. And remember, your heading is always, is here for you. So you're just going to type right under it, and you should always have a space between, your next heading. You need a line in there. And so we're going to listen to the report and see if we can make out what he says and type some of it together so I can help you get started in this report.
Pre-op diagnosis, hematuria, transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder with radiation cystitis and proctitis.
And you can hear him yawning in there. That's kind of unprofessional, but it's a reality of it. They're, recording at all different times and so on. So he says, the first thing he says, pre-operative diagnosis. See if you can make that out. And then he goes on into what they are.
Pre-op diagnosis, hematuria, transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder with radiation cystitis.
And,
diagnosis, hematuria.
And so sometimes it's, if you can slow down the speed, that helps a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to do that. So he says preoperative diagnosis, then he says hematuria and transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder with radiation, cystitis, and proctitis. Okay, so that's it, your preoperative. Then he goes on into the postoperative diagnosis.
Diagnosis, hematuria, transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder with radiation cystitis and proctitis. Post-op diagnosis of bleeding from prostatic bed. Procedure T.
So he says bleeding from prostatic bed. Then you need your space in between. Okay, and then he should go into the title of the procedure. On this one, when he talks about it, listen to it real quick.
Biopsy and fulguration of prostatic beds. Procedure with patient in the dorsal lithotomy, radiation cystitis.
Let's listen to the beginning again.
Pre-op diagnosis, hematuria, transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder with radiation cystitis and proctitis. Post-op diagnosis of bleeding from prostatic bed. Procedure TUR biopsy and fulguration of prostatic bed.
He says TUR. So TUR is a abbreviation for something. So I'm going to put my space in there, and it will be written like this, but you need to type in what it is prior to that. You can't just put in the abbreviation for it. You always have to put the full word, then the abbreviation in parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to let you look up what TUR is, and then he says biopsy, comma, and fulguration of prostatic bed. Okay, so I'm going to let you look up what TUR is and fill in that blank right there, and then you can go ahead and fill in the surgeon, and then the procedure is going to be one full paragraph. And then it's your closure, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to listen for just a minute.
Procedure with patient in the dorsal lithotomy position after satisfactory spinal anesthesia. 28 stores or sectoscope was introduced into the prostate. Period. Anterior urethra was normal. Posterior urethra had evidence of...
He goes pretty fast, so I'm going to start it off. It starts off, the paragraph should start off with patient in the dorsal lithotomy position. Dorsal lithotomy position after satisfactory spinal anesthesia. A 28 stores resectoscope was introduced into the prostate, period. Then he goes on to say, you can listen to it. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then you can go ahead and type it up. Anterior urethra was normal. Posterior urethra had evidence of previous surgery on the prostate with an open channel viewed from the Vermonton. That's a good question. I don't know what that word is. I can't pronounce it, but it's spelled VERUMONTANUM, comma, and the bladder was trabeculated and cellulated with some diverticular formation. The patient's bleeding was felt to be coming from the prostatic bed. Biopsies from this area were taken, and a transurethral resection of some of the redundant tissue performed, as well as fulguration of the prostatic bleeding areas. Patient then had the chips evacuated from the bladder, and a number 20 Foley catheter was inserted through gravity drainage. Estimated blood loss 50 cc's. No replacement required at time of procedure. Patient tolerated the procedure well. Now, a couple things about this report is when he says a number 20 Foley, you're actually going to put the number sign in the 20. Okay? You don't spell out number. And then also, he'll say cc's in the report, but the dictated, the liquid measure cc should be edited always to ml, according to the ISMP error-prone abbreviation list. Okay, I hope that helps with your report. And then go ahead and put the doctor's name, his initials, your initials, the dictation, and the transcription date and time. Okay, I hope that helps with this one, and best of luck.